So
Honored to be here.
please, who will be the first who would like to ask the question? Yeah?
Great movie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just have a question, a simple question. Why Keanu Reeves? Because obviously it seems like it's his year, especially recently. So how was it to work with him and why especially him?
Just so I know, you guys all saw the movie?
No.
No, okay.
Not everyone.
Good to know. Well, we cast him a year and a half ago, so we had no idea there was going to be a Keanu Renaissance.
Nobody knew who he was.
Yeah, he's undiscovered. But we had this character, Duke Kaboom, Canada's greatest stuntman, and so we only wanted to listen to Canadian actors for the voice. And the way we listen to the voices is we don't want to know who the actors are, we don't want to see pictures of the actor, we want it to be a completely cold audition. And so we have a casting director who just finds clips of different actors and plays them all in a row, and we'll just kind of like take notes. Maybe one was good, 4, maybe 5, you know, that kind of thing. And when we heard Keanu's, which I did not, it was a line from a movie I hadn't seen, and we all kind of went, whoa, who's that? This is interesting. And so they said, do you want to know who that is? And we were like, yes, it's Keanu Reeves. And we all started laughing because we were thinking, well, he'll never say yes, you know. But we thought it couldn't hurt to ask, and so we reached out to him, and he called us back and said, before I say yes, I want to meet you guys and talk about the movie. So he came up to Pixar, and the coolest guy in the world, just by himself, no entourage, nothing. And we had lunch with him, we kind of walked him around the building, and over lunch he was asking these really awesome questions that were about the character, and questions that I hadn't even thought of the answers to ahead of time. So I was kind of thinking of the character more like just as a side joke, but he was saying like, what is Duke Kaboom afraid of? Like, who are his friends? Who are, like, what's his backstory? And we kind of started to craft the character right then. And he said, well, he's a character that goes into poses, right? Like an action figure. Like, yeah. And so he started going, huh, 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 like just going into different poses. And we were laughing so hard, and he got into the character so much he stood up on the table while I was reading lunch. And he goes, I'm Duke Kaboom! Ha, ha, ha. And so the character was kind of formed right there in that moment. And so then he said yes.
In what state of mind did you approach this fourth film?
Thanks, William.
Thank you very much. What state of mind?
Yeah.
Well,
I think we love Toy Story. I mean, we've all been at Pixar for so long, and when Toy Story 3 ended, we felt, I think like a lot of people felt like that was a beautiful ending. That felt like this nice conclusion to the story. But Andrew Stanton, who's one of our writers and executive producers and kind of one of the fathers of Toy Story, he had squirreled away and was writing an outline what would turn into this, just the basic beats. And his thing was that that's not the ending. That never was the ending. That was the ending of Andy and Woody's story, but Toy Story is about Woody. And when we heard that and we started to sit forward, I think our frame of mind became, yeah, we need to craft something that somehow honors 3, but uses 3 as the catapult into what would be the conclusion in a way. So I think it was a combo of nerves. We were nervous because we loved Toy Story and we didn't want to wreck it, you know, but excitement that we might be able to pivot it in a way that people wouldn't expect. I just remember feeling both of those things all the way through, kind of. You guys agree?
yeah, absolutely. And fear. There's a lot of fear.
Fear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
yeah, these are characters that the audience knows and loves. A lot of people grew up with them, and so we wanted to do right by them.
But there's so much love inside the walls of Pixar for Woody and Buzz, where I think the employees of Pixar understand that the fabric of the studio was built on these characters. And so everyone brought a level of passion and commitment to this project in whatever their job was, from story department down to rendering. And just everyone wanted to make sure we made this thing the greatest thing that we could with the time that we had. So it was a really committed crew.
Yes, sir.
I had the chance to watch your movie last week, and my favorite character was the bunny and chick.
Oh yeah.
Very hilarious. And I wanted to know how did this character came to your mind?
Well, one of the things we always try to do with the Toy Story movies is explore a location where toys naturally are, but one we haven't seen before. And the carnival was an idea just because of the prizes. There's always toys at those games, and we realized that thinking about it, that the carnival prize is the worst existence you can have as a toy, because you're hanging there as bait basically for kids that want you, and they give the guy money. And then they play the game and you'll never win, and then they go away sad, and then the toys are sad, and then you go to the next town, the same thing happens over and over again. So it's the absolute worst. And we thought those characters would be so bitter and angry of their situation, and then we had already had a Key and Peele cast, I think, from an earlier version, and when we decided they'd be carnival toys, both of them jumped at that opportunity. Keegan was like, "Oh, that's great, because their point of view would only be what they see from in the carnival, and so they'd have like a skewed personality a little bit, where they're just watching people cheat games all day long, so their morality would be a little off."
Why did you decide to let come back Bobby?
Bo Peep?
Yeah. Why?
Well, we've always loved her. I mean, she's always been this really interesting character and somewhat strong. I mean, she's always been a conscious of Woody. In the first two films, there's a lot of scenes with her. She's the one that says, look under your boot, and Andy loves you. And she's the one that would course correct him, which we thought was really cool. But she's always been in the background. So in a way, one of the stronger characters was just in the background. She's also a character that's had a little bit of a built-in personality crisis, because she's not really a toy. I mean, she's a lamp. It's a figurine on a lamp, and she's porcelain. So we thought you could take that idea of her being really important to Woody and just reintroduce her and put her up front. We thought of her as Toy Story's first realist, in a way. Like all the other toys, specifically Woody, is just trying to hang on to his job and not be lost and do all these things, and she kind of gets it that that's not going to last forever, and she's okay with it. And so she's you had said you wanted her to be the real catalyst for Woody's change. Like Woody's changed a lot in the three pictures, but we wanted to go further, and it wouldn't happen without Bo. So we've always loved her and thought she was one of the more interesting characters, and thought it'd be a nice surprise if you found out, like, oh, one of the most important characters in the whole saga is the character maybe you even forgot about. So we brought her forward. She was always at the center of this movie. I mean, the code name at Pixar was Peep when we started developing it. So we always knew she would be the sort of the pulse of it.
It was fascinating to go back and watch 1 and 2, and for her, the amount of screen time she has combined is like 6 minutes, and that's it. And then that little moment in Toy Story 3 when they reference her, that to me has always been like one of the most emotional parts of that movie. And you're like, what happened there? So it was exciting that we got to kind of answer that.
So
Thank you.
I have kind of a trick question. So
Oh God.
Forky is coming to life because of Bonnie's love, kind of. So can toys die if they are forgotten?
Chris, you said no one would ask that.
Can they die if they're forgotten?
Yeah.
No, well, I think.
Well,
No?
what?
It's kind of like Inside Out, like
the memories die?
Yeah.
Well, we have forgotten toys in the antique store, and they're not dead.
They're not dead. You're right.
Yeah. I don't. Huh.
And toys are alive. Just break it down. Toys are alive when we're not looking. Like that.
Right.
We know that, and we've chased down what happens when they lose their position or when they're lost. So no, I don't think they die.
But you're right though, what's new in this film, right, is Forky is a toy that was handcrafted, that breathes life. We've never seen a toy come to life before that's handcrafted.
Yeah.
So that was a really fun thing to explore because it was new, hadn't seen that in any of the other Toy Story films. It surprises the audience, it surprises the toys in the room, it surprises Forky. He doesn't know why he's alive.
Yeah.
So we did have a lot of fun with that. And I don't know, maybe it was that she wrote her name on the bottom of his sticks that made him come to life.
Or that he has a new purpose.
Yeah.
But we put him in the movie in a way to almost, this is what we would do. We would sit there and go, does this work? Why does it work? Do they die? Like all these big theoretical questions. It was so funny to us that Forky is what causes that. You know, this little piece of garbage or handcrafted toy that causes this esoteric debate.
And the other thing we did to breeze past all those questions in the movie is we have, I think Trixie says into the room, like, Woody, I have a question. No, I mean, I have all the questions, and so that's how we answered that. Was just by making a joke.
So on Forky, was it always about making it a fork, or at
Yeah.
the beginning was it something as a spoon, or anything else?
It was always a spork.
Yeah, it was one meeting, I think, one day in the story room where the story artist and Josh were batting around ideas. You know, we all observe our kids in the way that they play with their toys, and we see our kids take something all the time and turn it into a toy. When it's not, they'll play with the box instead of the gift that came in that box. And so we had the idea of like, what would it be like if something that a kid was playing with actually did come to life? And it was, when that meeting ended, there was a whole bunch of people had drawn sporks with googly eyes.
It was just funny, and so nobody else drew anything different. I remember. So yeah, it was always a sport.
Why many characters go by pair? The couple is the basis of the story in a way.
They go by pairs.
Yeah.
Buzz and Woody,
Yes,
Ducky and Bunny.
Fork and yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe that goes back to like vaudeville or something like that, where you've got Abbott and Costello and just the duo aspect of it.
so much of the movie too is about relationships. I mean, when you
Yeah.
pull apart the characters, it's always about the dynamic between two characters, or a friendship, or a strain on a relationship. So I think it's just organically, we do tend to pair them up that way.
Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, but I haven't seen the movie, so
Okay.
I will see the movie in 1 hour.
Don't ask
Okay,
me
good.
about it.
So my question is a little bit different.
Yes, okay.
And has it changed anything at Pixar since Big Doctor direction? I mean, in terms of creation, if he asked for something different or a way of working, whatever. So
Specifically on this film.
no, I mean
Pixar?
at Pixar.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of optimism right now about Pete in the role of Chief Creative Officer. Within the studio, there's always been a great love for Pete and his work, a lot of respect for him, at first as an animator and as a director. His films are some of the most beloved inside the studio. People are always fighting to try to get onto Pete's movies. So when he stepped into that role, I think everybody, there was a standing ovation. When it was announced, there was a standing ovation in the studio that probably went on for 5 minutes before it stopped. He really is looking out for the voices within the studio. He's looking for diversity and the people that are bringing their stories to the table. And he's got a lot of folks now lined up in development telling these original stories. And they're stories we're all really excited about. A lot of new voices, new directors. There's more gender balance coming, which is long overdue. So there's a lot of enthusiasm about Pete in this role.
So, Josh, this is your first feature film?
Yes.
Director. So, what was the most challenging thing you had to face, and wasn't it a bit stressful to direct as a first feature film such a beloved franchise?
I'll start with your second question first. Yes, it was a bit stressful. When I was asked, I of course said yes right away. But thinking about it, I wanted to do pictures. I didn't want to just do another Toy Story movie that just felt like another adventure. I wanted to make sure it had an impact on the characters, and also the audience loves these characters. I love these characters. I love the movie so much. I saw the first two before I even worked at Pixar, so I got to come to it as a fan as well. And we just wanted to do something that was different, that felt like Toy Story, but a slightly different film, so it's not a repeat of anything we've done before. So, that's a huge order. And luckily, I have these guys that I've worked with forever, and an amazing crew that is very passionate about making something new and special. The first part of your question was? The hardest thing, most challenging thing?
Yeah.
The story. It was trying to find how to tell the best story that earned the title of Toy Story 4.
Did the story change a lot in the process?
Yes, I'd say that the one thing that never changed was Bo Peep. She was always a part of this movie. But how we brought her into the film, how she related with Woody, how we showed what happened to her over the course of time, that all changed in very many ways.
And the narrative arc of Woody changed too? Or
Yeah.
I don't want to
How we
spoil,
did it,
but
Yeah. No, his arc definitely, we had multiple endings, and every arc was created a different ending.
Don't tell her.
We probably built like maybe 12 versions of Toy Story 4 over the past 5 years. We build a version, screen it, react to it, tear it down, rewrite it, build it up again every 4 months. That's part of our process. So there were a lot of versions of this movie, and we believe that the one we ended with was the best of those 12.
By far.
I was wondering, Toy Story 3 was really dramatic, but Toy Story 4 was, I'm not spoiling, it's kind of has quite a bittersweet turn. Was it important for you to say it's okay to let things go?
Careful.
The theme that we thought of, that we brought to the table with this film is about purpose and how your purpose can change over time. And Woody has been given to this new girl Bonnie, beginning of the film, or the end of 3, beginning of this one. And he's already done everything that a toy is meant to do with Andy. He's lived that entire life and to success with that. And now he's with this new girl, and it's not going to be the same that it was with Andy. And so we really wanted to lie into that and relate to that and see what it would be like for this character that is dealing with this transition. So and embracing that transition as well. So I think it is about that and how you can't go back. He's very nostalgic. The same way we knew the audience would be toward this character as well. We wanted the audience and Woody to be on the same page. And like, oh, I remember watching those movies, but for Woody, like that was his life. So not that he'd let it go, but it's. I don't feel like I could say anything else without spoiling anything.
Is it the beginning of something else for the franchise?
Well, for this film, the way every ending is the beginning of something. Uh-oh.
You had your hand up, brother.
I have a question, a technical question actually, about the rendering, because the lights, the texture are very realistic. And I think of the first scene in the rain, which, apart from breaking my heart, was absolutely stunning. And I was wondering if you limit yourself not to make the first movie too old, because they were done many years ago, but there is a gap between the first and the fourth Toy Story, so I was wondering how you work on that.
Well, we were aware of it and talked a lot about it. What we did is we kind of broke down the visual ingredients of the first film and kind of the first 3 films. Our production designer, Bob Pauley, along with the whole team. Bob worked on the first film, as did I, and he kind of summarized it well. It's like Toy Story, the 3 kind of visual ingredients are sort of a caricatured shape language, so a chair would have maybe a little roundness to it or scale because you're seeing a toy perspective. Very realistic textures because we want it to be tactile. We want Bo Peep to look like porcelain and so forth. And then theatrical lighting where we push, it's not just how the sun is in the sky, but we push it to get a little theater out of it. And so we kept those ingredients the same, although the renderer has progressed obviously since 1995. We can get a lot more fidelity and show a lot more depth. And that, the rain scene we're very proud of. In Toy Story 1 it rains, and all we could do was fake a matte painting and some fake shader treatment on one window pane to make it look like it was raining. Did the rest with sound. Now we can put the toys in the rain and have the rain react and respond and so forth. And so we didn't want to shy away from the fact that we could show more and do a little bit more, but we tried to keep the visual grammar intact. So that was our goal. And there were times when we went too far. You know, you would say, that looks, we have to pull back, or, you know, the rain, you know, when we first did it, it was literally like the scale of rain was what you'd see in real life, and I think we ended up scaling up 300 times. So even the raindrops, although they look real, they're caricatured in a way to amplify the, you know, the danger or whatever we were after. So it was a balancing act all the way through.
There's also kind of an opportunity, you know, like Andy, it makes an appearance in the first scene in the movie, and we've seen him since the first movie. And if you go back and rewatch the first one, he's a little creepy. We weren't that great with humans back then. So it was,
don't be so mean to Andy.
you know, but we had the chance to make him look a little better in this one. I think audiences will thank us for making him look better and not reintroducing creepy Andy to Toy Story 4.
Yes.
You use some horrific and scary elements in the movie, and I was wondering, how do you dial this up and down to find the right level, just to scare people, but maybe not scare the children too much?
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. It's a compliment. I like creepy stuff. But to be honest, I mean, go back and watch even the first Toy Story, the mutant toys scene. That's terrifying. There's always an element of danger in all the Toy Story films. And in Toy Story 2, I think it's Stinky Pete that says it's a dangerous world out there for a toy. And so every place the toys go, it's life or death to them, even if it's crossing the street. So an antique store felt like a great place to have more danger to it, just because these toys would be very, very desperate to get out of there.
Even dolls sometimes are just naturally eerie.
Yeah, we went to a lot of antique stores for reference, and every single one of them, no joke, every one had like a creepy ventriloquist dummy in the corner, just kind of sitting there. And I was like, that needs to be
do it. And baby dolls too.
And baby dolls. They look at it
in antique stores.
And from a team effort and a producer point of view, how do you adjust this kind of thing? And are you aware of the effect it will have for distribution and the audience?
Well, we do an audience preview when we're about 6 months before we're finished. We show 2 screenings to an audience that's never seen the film before, doesn't know what they're going to see, and we have Q&A, question-answer sessions with them afterwards. And we get a good read there, whether we've crossed any lines or whether those audiences are accepting and scared, the right amount of scared. And we don't scare the children, and there's not crying or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, but no, we do test it, and we show our own kids at home, and we do test it within the studio a lot. We screen for ourselves to kind of make sure we're keeping a good balance there.
Maybe an open question for the end, because someone mentioned the ending being a beginning. Soon we'll have Disney Plus, and there is a series about Forky.
Yes,
So
Mark
were you
producing that.
consulted, or did you make it by your own?
Yeah, so I'm producing the Forky short films. There's 10 of them for Disney Plus. They're called Forky Asks a Question. And we all loved Forky. Forky inside the studio was a standout to us. Like, if any character deserves a short film series, it was Forky. And it's in the time, it's right after the movie ends. He's only been alive for 3 days, doesn't know anything about life. And so in each episode, he's asking a question in Bonnie's room to the characters in Bonnie's room. Things like, what is money? What is time? What is love? What is art? What is cheese? And every episode is Forky asking a question. So Bob Peterson is directing those. He did the voice of Doug in Up and Mr. Ray and Roz in Monsters Incorporated. So he's a writer and a director inside the studio. So we look forward to carrying Forky on and sharing that on Disney Plus.
I'd like to come back on the rendering a bit, because on Toy Story 4 I feel like there was something new about the skin and the face of the human, something maybe more alive or more real. So what has changed between the previous movies, and is it just a new update of the RenderMan, or is it
No, I think it's a whole, the whole rendering has changed, our lighting tools have changed, so lighting is a big part of how we do sort of the subdivision surface of skin, the shading, even the animation tools, we're able to get a little more of the jaw and the pool of musculature under the skin and so forth. I mean, obviously we made a lot of films since Toy Story, so it hasn't just been those films, but The Incredibles was a big step forward, Ratatouille, Incredibles 2 have all, Merida with Brave, we've all, humans are really one of the hardest things to do in animation, and I think specifically in human animation, because we're all experts at looking at humans. So it's always been funny to me, we could do Finding Nemo or something, and people say, oh, Dory looks real, you know, but Andy looks creepy. Well, Dory doesn't look real, but because you can caricature her so much, she feels more real. So it's really tricky to design and animate humans in a way that I guess feel right, and we work hard to try to get into that balance. But yeah, the technology on all fronts has gotten better, so we're able to get a little closer to humans, the eyes, the lighting, the hair obviously, and I think in aggregate it's, at least I hope you think, we feel it's working a lot better than it was in 95.
Yeah, and we had to update all the characters, even the ones that were in Toy Story 3. None of them work in the current technology. You can't just use them. We had to go in and rework, rebuild, reshade every character, even if they were characters that had been seen in Toy Story 3.
It'd be like trying to put a 8-track into your CD player.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't work.
In the back there.
Just remember a question important. Do you decide to change Forky's name in French?
We don't really have any say over that.
Because in French, it's not Forky.
What is it?
Fourchette. And I think in Italian and Spanish, it's translate, and I was a little bit disappointed about this, because his name is Forky.
His name is Forky.
Yeah.
And why in French it's Fourchette?
I don't know. We're going to find out though.
We don't know.
I'm so angry.
It's weird, because a name is a name.
A name is a
Right.
name, yeah.
Translate it.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, Disney Character Voices International is a group that we work with as the film rolls out to the different territories. They do a great job of making sure all the dialogue and everything goes through. But I actually didn't know that. Thank you. That's a rule.
What is
One last question.
the process of the creation of new characters? What is the process? Is there brainstorming session?
Yeah.
And how many characters do you want to create?
Well, we always want to make sure that the characters there. Well, first of all, I love that about Toy Story. Every new movie introduces new toys to the world, which I just always love. It feels like the world is so much bigger than just the bedroom there. And this movie's no different. We wanted to make sure that we introduced new toys to this movie as well, but also we wanted to introduce toys that we grew up with as well, because Woody being from the 50s, Slinky's kind of in the 50s as well. There's some more classic, Mr. Potato Head's more classic toys, but then we grew up in the 70s and 80s, and so we decided, like, well, let's look at some of the newer toys, and we had story artists that grew up in the 90s that were bringing their toys forward as well. So it was fun to just start there and go, what's the stuff that we remember playing with, and seeing what would work. And then we wanted to make sure that we had introduced characters that weren't just characters, but were actually influencing Woody's story, and making sure that they were essential to Woody's story and not just extra because we could do it. So that was kind of where all that came from.
Thank you.
Thank you all.